And that's a quorum in as much as I've spoken to Chad this evening. He's not sure if he's able to join us. AJ is definitely unable to join us. I got the agenda in the linked from the core meeting, and hopefully, and oh, I see everyone's in. Excellent. And what I should do is I've not asked in previous meetings if there were other agenda topics that that anyone else has that we should add to this evening's discussion. And if you
generally, if I've got something, I'll add it in there myself.
Excellent.
I'm not shy about that.
Excellent. Okay. I just didn't want to didn't want me to steamroll any good discussion. All right. So my thinking is, my proposal is that we shift the business meetings, these meetings that we've been having every Wednesday evening to Thursday, if that's suits everyone else. I have other meetings through the month on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so adding, I could do Monday and Friday I like to stay away from for meetings. Thursday would be optimal for me. If any reactions, thoughts on this?
So with my current schedule, the only issue I have is I would not be able to make one of the meetings because I work 1:30 to 10. Now, if it's around, let's say 6 p.m. my time, I could probably take a lunch and join in then. But the rest of the basically, I work on a 4-week rotation, so just one of the week in the 4 weeks would have to be. We'd have to figure that out, I guess.
Okay. So. Okay. Gosh, I don't know how you do it working on a 4-week rotation. My brother-in-law did that for 20 years. It was brutal.
Yeah, I despise it.
Yeah. What's a good time if we nominally pick Thursday for the business meeting? 9 is a little on the late side for me, but it's good in that it certainly bookends the day. It's not the not the middle of the day for me.
Well, if we could do it around 6 my time, which would be 8 your time, and
okay.
Then and if we base it all off of like Eastern time, then when the time changes, I can adjust. Because Arizona, we're cool. We don't do time changes.
I'm well aware. I had a team in Tucson.
So 8 your time, maybe. Does that work for everybody else?
Dan, Stephanie?
That worked fine for me.
Okay, and so that's 8 Eastern. Dan? Okay. 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 Awesome. Okay. And I had just a request there that was if you can't make a meeting, if you just let me know. If you can let me know day before or day of, that's fine. All right. We had talked about utilizing some time, and I'm certainly up to a name. I characterized it as an FPVFC community meeting. So from what I can see is that we do have some people listening to the to the recordings, I've had a couple of. I had one email on Saturday. An individual was volunteering and had some comments for us, and mostly useful and positive, which was great. And so my thinking was, well, if we have established anything of an awareness, then maybe we want to retain that time. I jotted down a couple of topics that I think we had discussed in previous calls, that we pick one topic, and if it and then my thought was that if it's crickets, if there's no discussion, then we go to another topic, and if it's still crickets, then maybe we try a third, but if that's crickets, then we call it a night. But I thought these were, I was surprised that I was able to, let's see, Josh, did you add any to these? Let's see.
No, I
Okay.
read them. Looked like you hit a good chunk of them. So
Okay. And also tough to do over the phone, but adding a little humor, and to me, along the lines of, we should, maybe just to get people, if it's a feisty evening and people are enjoying themselves, it's the right time of year, whatever the positive situation, if we can add something like, okay, we're going to finish this sentence. And I was just talking to my wife, and I said, well, I think what I'd like it to be is, finish this sentence. FPV means freedom because, and she said, no, you're answering the question. Let people be creative. So she said, drones because. So I was like, okay, that's thoughtful.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she normally does, and thank goodness she's put up with me for 37 years. So, any other Dan and Stephanie? I don't know if you've had an opportunity to scan through these topics, tuning them, and these are not cast in concrete. This was just to brainstorm some ideas, and so that what I was thinking is that when we have a community meeting set up, we most definitely want to have, we want to, whoever moderates, we want to have a list, and that we want to be saying, okay, we're gonna kick off these topics, and then that allows those of us on the, as Stephanie has anointed us, the High Council, or maybe it was Justin.
No, it's me. Yeah,
It was you. Excellent. That
it just sounds cooler.
there you go. I love it. That we've got some canned comments. If someone, for example, if we say, so, what does everyone think about category 1, 2, and 3 in the new FAA proposals? It's like, so, that we have some thoughts about. Well, let me explain what that means, in my understanding, and then we can discuss it. So what does everybody think about 25 foot-pounds of kinetic energy for a drone over? I'm missing the 20. I think no, I can't get the weight. That's the higher weight category. So anything else on the list?
I just added, just some discussion topic. How can recreational model aircraft and commercial drones integrate effectively together? That can go in with remote identification. But one of the things we can do with this is, let's say we're talking about category 1, 2, and 3 of the different weight classes. We can post that material with the meeting announcement so that people can kind of pre-read.
Oh,
So you're kind of offering a pre-read, and then it's a little easier to dive into those topics.
I like that.
I have an idea in regards to that. One of the biggest things that I've been working on the past few days is to try to, I'm sorry, I have an angry snap. Is to kind of square away a social media plan just so that we can get started and, put our name out there a little bit more. a lot of the topics that we can come up with, we could then tie that into, whatever that night's meeting is. But we can utilize the social media feed to kind of put some feelers out as well a couple of days before if you guys want.
Yeah, love that. Are you volunteering?
Well, yeah,
Please,
it's part of
please.
it's supposed to be part of what I do.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
absolutely. I mean, I kind of have to volunteer, right? I
Well,
mean, we can make Josh do it, right?
no, I'd be grateful.
Yeah, no problem. And in fact, I was working on that today, and I was trying to get it finished. But the program that I was working with, because it's a platform where you put all your apps in one, so you can just look at all on one page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was giving me fits. So
Yeah.
anyway, but it'll work out.
Okay. I like that idea. All right.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of stuff we can talk about. We can, and it doesn't even need to necessarily be regulations and that. It could be, what's your experience with a particular flight controller, or whatever is a hot topic with the community.
All right. How do you get Lewis script set up?
True story.
I'm so proud.
Let's set up a couple of RSS feeds just to watch trends, to catch things that we might not necessarily see right away.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So we can pull some from that too. Like if we find
Jeez.
something that piques our interest, we can throw that in the mix.
Like that. Josh, would you be willing to take on leading the community meeting?
Absolutely.
Awesome. My next question would be, and you don't have to answer it right now, when would you like to set up the first one?
Give me, let's say 2 weeks from now.
Sure. So next week, let's see. We'll keep. We can keep this this time slot for this meeting, and then we'll move.
Sounds like a plan.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay.
By the way, if I'm doing that, y'all are joining in. Or...
Yeah, required. Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you can't leave me there by myself.
That's right.
Without some comedic relief.
Right. When Josh says something and we go, oh, jeez. Oh. Or, oh, boy, I wouldn't have said it that way. Oh, am I on mute?
That's off.
Right. Yeah, I know all the phone call supporting techniques to make the team members feel right at home.
We're all more than willing to be there to harass you, Josh.
Hey, right. That's all I ask.
That's right.
Harass away. Keep it interesting.
That's right. Okay. But we are the benevolent site, so it will be in good fun. Okay. We had a little discussion. It was Josh was on mute, and AJ was last week was still ill. I hope he's feeling better. I think he's working, so that tells me he's at least well enough to work. Hope his wife is okay as well. But he was unable.
That he's in overtime right now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it sucks.
I hope that's good. Are looking at the brainstorming our offering, and so what's our offer? So, Chad, as I mentioned last week, I expected Chad to ask this, and he was right on it. It was the first question. So you've got a membership dues fee. So what's your offer? And a couple of the ideas were be the benevolent organization in FPV. How can we be an advocate for fun? The DIRT, Drone Emergency Response Team, and we can be an objective party in standards. Now, the one that's leading right up on top, those are additional ideas, is that be the community-based. I didn't retype this, but Dan had some nice eloquent phrasing for this. but I have be the community-based organization for FPV that advocates for the FPV community with the FAA, and to allow our FPV operators to keep flying where they want to fly. And that's so I've got to get that netted down to something a little more coherent, but that was the primary offer. So when I was thinking about it from the perspective of the AMA, I've heard this question. Well, certainly I help out at a national AMA event, the Rhinebeck Jamboree, and it's been going on for 52 years. And it's an AMA club, so folks will ask us, well, what's the benefit of joining, being an AMA member? And it's usually, well, there's a insurance that's a rider, but it's mostly that there are zillions of chartered clubs, and we can help you learn how to fly, and we can help you learn how to build if you want, and it's the camaraderie of the club. That's, of course, a tough sell, in as much as the demographic of most AMA clubs across the country are guys my age, or I'm about the median age at 60. So it's with a skewing off to older as well. So it's tough to attract kids and young adults. Anything come to mind? What's our offer?
I think the biggest would be, obviously, like you said, and like Dan said, would be integrating or collaborating with the FAA to maintain our freedoms in the sky. I also think that the club aspect is definitely one that we kind of need to push. Now, not a physical club, but kind of just a gathering of members, a place where they can ask questions, kind of openly, freely, get clarification quickly, that kind of thing. I don't think it's too far off to say that, among the members, they would be willing to help with build tips and that kind of thing. But I think the biggest thing for us would be a concise and centralized resource for information.
I agree with you, Josh. The other thing too is think about the dynamic of our community, and nobody really wants to deal with it, and we're willing to do it so that they don't have to. So that's also a bonus, because I've actually talked to a couple people that were excited that they didn't have to go through the hoops that we're going through, and thanked me for the work that we're doing. So that's another thing, not necessarily that we mention it, but for us to know that we're on the right course.
That is a little bit similar to how some of the mountain bike groups I'm a part of. There's one of the benefits of the organization is that they build mountain bike trails, but some people don't have time to volunteer for that, so they donate money to the organization to get the trails built because they have money but they don't have time. So we kind of offer the same sort of thing for people who have the money but not the desire to get involved. They can feel good that they've donated money and they see their ideas come to action. Something like that.
It definitely makes a lot of sense.
We fight the bureaucracy so that you don't have to.
Yeah, we
Right.
deal, and I was characterizing what you were saying, Stephanie. We deal with the stuff you don't want to. Parenthetically, interaction with the FAA, figuring out licensing. I see you're in the document. Oh, are you unable
yeah.
to see what we're writing, or? Okay.
I don't know if it's updated. Yeah, just updated.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
I'm just a little bit
All right.
a couple scotches behind you guys.
Uh-huh. Okay. There was a one of the this jogged. Thank you, thank you. Jogged my memory on from the note on Saturdays. Gosh, I can't. I'll dig out this fella's name. But he said, figuring out what's required is confusing, and we've seen it also from a perspective of there are a couple of commercial shops that will, for example, they'll say, hey, we'll get your FAA registration for your drone and we'll manage it for you for $75. It's like, this is not the FAA. And they're charging a fee for logging into an FAA site and paying the $5, and then they're gouging you. So helping folks understand, hey, no, go to the FAA.gov site. This is, here's the full link, and this is what you need to do at this point. And as things get more complicated, here's the way to do to operate legally. You need your FCC license. You need this type of knowledge testing exam to be compleed. And
on that same note, sorry to interrupt. I just kind of
I was done. Go.
My creative juices here. The other thing we can offer, and this comes from something Stephanie and I were talking about the other day, study guides for like the Part 107 or the upcoming drone test or the model aircraft test or whatever. That can be a benefit of being a member. We can you're not paying for the study materials, you're paying for the membership, and you get access to the study material. Does that make sense?
It does. The 107 is makes me a little anxious. It's ambitious, and it's also competing with for fee companies that are out there.
Right, and at the same time, what's the going rate for fee study guide companies right now? $100 to get a study guide.
100 to about 700.
So
that's about the top.
$40 to get some study guide materials. Now it may not be on the same par as some of these other places, but it definitely is a benefit we could offer if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like the overall idea. Plus, it can be, there is a plethora of information for the FCC testing for the technician license that you need to run a VTX.
Yep.
All right. Of interest, I have my ham license, as I think you'll know. And I want to get the 107. I know Stephanie wants to get her 107. Is that something that you're interested in, Josh and Dan, or you've already gotten?
Yeah, I don't have it, but definitely interested in getting it.
Cool.
Even if it's just so much as to do demonstrations and whatnot at events or whatever the case may be. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
I think it's a
definitely
really good
interested.
look for us if you have it.
Yeah, and in fact, all of the Rotor Ride pilots got their 107 because they knew that if they were flying at an event, it'd be, they get, they're being paid and they're at an event, so they darn well better have a 107. So they did. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. So that's good. I think we all have a similar view. Not necessarily want to, go out and shoot real estate videos, but knowing what it takes and having that as one more certification as part of our resume in this organization, I think helps for each of us. To me, it's really strong to say everybody here flies. Everybody here is licensed. That's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not that we need the validation or certification of it. it just looks good and it bodes well, and it shows that, hey, we're not joking. We're
Yeah.
this serious that we're going to jump through these hoops,
Yep.
even though we
And
don't need to.
it will also help us become more knowledgeable when we speak to the FAA, when we speak to the FPV community. So we'll have that as a additional background, and
Exactly.
Yep.
that'll help.
If
Good.
we're going to be at the table, we need to have our P's and Q's in
This is
check.
this is a good discussion. Other ideas on this topic? Good thoughts. Thank you. Okay. Board of Directors meeting. It's coming up. It's set. It's on the 15th, and we've got the presentation. Josh and I have been working on it. It's in a folder. I was going to use the phrase I dropped the link. Oh my gosh, how vernacular. I placed the link in our Discord core channel, and um, welcome comments. If you do have comments, the presentation is now settling down, so please don't edit the document. But I really welcome comments. So just shoot Josh a note, me a note, maybe in our core channel to add any pluses or minuses. If you'd like, I'm happy to move to that and go through it. I don't want to bore anyone because it's.
So it's been a couple days because I've been at work since I've looked at this. What's on slide number 5? What's the basis of that?
Is it the circles?
USA, yeah, the circles.
Okay, so all right. So can you drop a link in so that the other folks can click
Yeah.
where should we see that quick? So I'll get to the presentation. There we go. Okay.
You've been hanging out with us when you said drop.
Yeah, well, it's got, and my son uses it. I hear it on. I'm a Bloomberg fanatic. I'm a news junkie in general, but Bloomberg News is the best financial news I've found, and even they've started to use it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's coming. It's coming into common usage.
Well, as a younger generation joins the crowds, you're gonna get that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You keep
But
hanging with us, man, and you're doomed.
I know. I know. Yeah, it's not that I'm resentful. It just sounds awkward when someone who's 1 to 2 generations out adopts the vernacular.
Exactly.
Um,
One of us. One of us.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So on slide 4, let's see. Dan's not there yet. Looks like this thing did an anonymous. He didn't.
Yeah, I can see it there.
Okay, good. So on slide 4, what I was trying to convey to the board members, because the 2 board members who we are most interested in are Jeff Thompson and Tim Nelson. Jeff, the CEO of Red Cat, Tim Nelson, CEO of Get FPV. Both of them are in the industry, so they're super knowledgeable about FPV and racing. But I just don't know how up to date are they about what's going on with the FAA today. So the slide 4 was to try to put, here are the facts. This is what's going on. Things are moving quickly, faster than we anticipated. And this list on the left characterizes what the FAA is preparing to do. And one of the styles or the technique that they're using is everything they're talking about relates to 107 certified operators. And so they've said, well, we want to do these good things for our 107 operators, but we're going to have to do remote identification first. So, what's our role in this as FPVFC? And then I went to slide 5, and one of the funnier moments in my career was one of the guys we were working with used this in a presentation to a couple of us. And we were working on an acquisition, and he related it to the circle of trust that I think it was De Niro in Meet the Folkers. And so today on the left, we have the FAA, big organization. And if you're on the inside, they're the Drone Advisory Council, the Aircraft Rules Committee, DJI, any members, and there are a list of companies and organizations. AMA they're on the inside, and over on the outside, we are observing, and we've made these observations that we've been sharing with you from the outside, and we are something of a satellite to the FPV community, and our objective is to become as part of, or in the circle of trust with the FAA, and within we want the FPV community to trust us, and we want to represent and advocate for the FPV community. So this is the grant, so it struck me as a bit of humor, but the reason I created this slide is that I didn't think that slide 4 got this point across. It didn't.
Gotcha.
It didn't say, folks, we are a couple of people representing thousands of people in the FPV community. The FAA is thousands of people themselves, and the extended community is tens of thousands of people. We want to try to become closer to that community and trusted, so that we get this information that we're talking about with a little bit of lead time, as opposed to it just pops up on us and there's a 60-day response window.
Gotcha. Okay.
I thought it was important enough to burn a slide. We've got a week to think about it.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we put, as you can see, we put in the guidelines. We put in the standards. So the idea of the overall presentation up on the slide, it should be after, yep, slide 1. Let's see, is that, yep, slide 2, the agenda. So the idea is that we've got, here's our mission and objectives for the year. Here's the environment that our interpretation of the United States regulatory environment for FPV today. And understand that. And now here are some things that you all as the board members have to vote on for this to be the organizational meeting and to start the organization. And then done. And then then I wanted to have a discussion, and some of the topics could be the subsequent slides that we've got, which is our FPVFC launch, collaboration points, the RFI on remote identification, and recent actions of flying over people and flying at night. So I'm going to try to break that up to stimulate a discussion. And in as much as we're talking to people who are extremely busy, if we get the yeah, I saw this, but I've really not had an opportunity to read it in depth. Could you take us through some of these charts? Then we'll present the work, but we'll be soliciting input and discussion as we go along. Once we hit into that any of the pre-read topics. And again, I welcome questions, comments on this. So it doesn't have to be right now, but this is, I would suggest, a reasonably important meeting for us. And so I've put a fair amount of energy into this, and so has Josh. And that's not to say that it's cast in concrete. It's something like that. I wanted to get this to this stage, so that would have the amount of a period of time to stare at the ceiling, think about it, and come back to it, and then see if it still is if it still works, if it tells a story, and if it does, if it communicates the messages we want to communicate.
So my question to maybe Stephanie and Dan, is there anything that is not in here that needs to be in here that we want to relate to the rest of the board of directors.
Yeah, I'll have to dig into it and take a close look at this later, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me
The
know,
only thing
because no, go ahead,
go ahead.
Stephanie.
I was just going to say the only thing that came to mind for me that I noticed is there's not really a strong reference about the fundraising campaigns.
Yes.
And even just a mention of that would help, because I don't want them to feel overwhelmed or pressured or worried or, stressed or whatever about that we're having to depend on memberships and merch. Like there's another element to it. Because it's multifaceted. It's going to take a minute, but there's more than, one option.
Okay.
And we got it covered.
And we
The
can
other thing
definitely
too is,
do that. Let's see. Go ahead. Keep talking.
I don't know if you're ready yet, Josh, or not, to mention this, but I mean, to them, because we've talked about it, but about potential grants.
So here's what I would say on I will include that as part of the fundraising kind of
Okay.
battle plan.
Right.
But I would say I'm not going to start doing any kind of grant writing until we're official, because in order to apply for grants, you need to have a tax ID. You need to have all that stuff and your ducks in a row. So I've got some sources that I'm going to start tagging, and honestly, some of it's going to be from kind of corporate America, places I know that it's easy to get money from.
Cool.
So, I mean, on my list, to be honest with you, is going to be like Walmart, because I know how
Yep.
easy it is to get money from them.
They have like 5 of the huge grants a year.
So each store in Walmart has $15,000 a year to give out, and generally all they do is put a manager in charge of it. And for my store, when I worked there, I was in charge of that. So they review it. They say, okay, we're good. I could apply for, let's say, $2,000. They could give me 500. They dictate how much, but you total that up across several stores, or let's say a whole state, or so on and so forth. It adds up very quickly. So you can do stuff like that. There's FAA grants that might potentially we might be able to use. I don't want to be beholden to them, but we can use that.
Right.
And there's just a bunch of nonprofit grants out there. But yeah, it's definitely on my list. I just don't want to start going down that path until we're officially.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't mean like to say that absolutely this is what we're doing, but hey, this is another option. I just want to make sure that they know that it's not just the one or two things, that we have a lot more things that we're considering.
Absolutely.
I like that. So I changed the sequence of a couple of slides, and so I put the budget, which is now slide 15, and then the fundraising, and then the merchandise examples. And so I stole the photographs. Oh, I see a T-shirt in there. How cool is that?
Yeah, I just made one up real quick on Teespring and chucked it in there.
This is so cool.
I was Stephanie, do you have any more merch picks? I don't know if you've done any with like the distress logos or
I'm
anything
working
like
on
that
them.
yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've got a couple, but I'm not ready for them to go on yet.
Okay.
I got to give you the log on stuff with Teespring. Remind me
Okay.
to, here. I'll shoot you a message now.
Sounds good.
Thank you. No passwords verbally. Perfect. Yeah. So the sequence of having the budget, then fundraising, then merchandising. It's to me, and the budget, the estimated anticipated expenses on slide 15 on the right hand side. We would characterize this as PFA, pluck from air. So
True story. I was going to say, I'm like, one conference, I don't know if we want to hit more. I mean, CES would be one that we might want to consider, stuff like that. But, again, just kind of pulling where we think we're going to be and whatnot.
Right. And I know business travel, I've burned through $50,000 to $60,000 in air travel alone in a year. So, 7,000 in travel is, that's pretty meager. So this is I wanted to two things. I wanted to keep it below the threshold of the nonprofit that allows us to do the 1023 easy. If we blow through that instantly, awesome. Then I'll apply to the 1023 full. But that was 1 and 2. I didn't want to be an idiot coming in with an astronomical number.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but that said, if there are better numbers, it's like, oh, this is just we need travel needs to be 15. It needs to be 20 in itself. And then we're going to characterize. So this is what we're thinking. We want to participate in these events. Then great. Then let's do that.
Right. And the other thing,
look and find out what's going on.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Stephanie.
I mean, just so that we can have an idea of where we could be, so that we don't find out after the fact, or if it's too late.
Well, and the other thing that you could do to kind of save on expenses, I mean, is kind of segregate the country. We've got I'm on the west side. I'm the only one on the west side, really. Stephanie's down south. Dan, you're up north. So if there's events that are closest to you, we can minimize travel expenses by sending the appropriate person,
right.
From that region.
Right. Yeah, like I'm driving I'm about 5 or 6 hours to Washington D.C., but my son lives in Gaithersburg, Maryland, so pretty close. Train in. Yep. Okay, so Dan would welcome comments as you have an opportunity to review this. I will say from an optics perspective, we're on the limit of font size from a presentation, but
yes.
in as much as the meeting will be done over the phone, I'm assuming that it's 9 o'clock in the morning, that the Eastern, that these gentlemen will have either a larger monitor or they'll have printed out the documents, which of course makes me think, do we want to go through the pain of creating a special print version that doesn't have a black background? But
that's not too hard. I can knock that out in an hour or so.
Okay, let's not do that until we freeze
finalize. Yep.
Yeah.
And then on a side note, if there's anything that we do need to add, I'd like to cut it off at 20 slides just for time purposes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just think of it from that perspective. If we do need to add something, we have 2 more slides to play with.
Yep. Good. Okay. Back to the agenda. Thank you. Great comments, good feedback, and welcome additional comments. Like the offer, the organization. Okay, so I have not done anything on the ANPRM, Safe and Secure Operations. This was the one that we have 60 days to respond once the clock starts, and I'm pretty sure that it has not started yet. The document we saw was a draft, and the document has to hit the Federal Register for that clock to start.
So I read through this stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some of the sample questions that they are requesting responses to. Is it just me, or does it seem very one-sided and nothing outside of what they're talking about is going to be kind of considered? Is it just me?
It's not yet just you. To me, this is part of the tactic of we're looking at 107 only. And so if you're not a 107 operator, please don't talk to us. And if you're not commercial, and if you're not DJI, or if you're not one of the 3 companies in inter-USS, then we may not accept your input. That's the spin. I mean, it looked like an RFR or a document that had a lot of help from the people who would benefit from delivering it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I was looking through the questions. I'm like, I could respond to these, but they're extremely guided questions and leave no room for anything outside of that.
So in as much as we've got some time, I think what I'd like to do on this one is I'll read it again, and I think I might ask AJ for some suggestions and advice. I know he's written a bunch on these topics.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so to me, I think we're okay unless you had anything to add on communications, Josh. I like the idea of the community meeting. I think that'll help. But if you had other thoughts of social or any other things along the lines of we need to amplify the communications of what we're doing, what we're up to try to pique interest both on Discord, Facebook, and whatever other platforms.
So I know Stephanie's working on a plan. I think over the next 2 weeks when we start, probably in the next week or so, I'm going to start announcing the community meetings. And I think from that point forward, we kind of need to have a social media presence and plan in place. So I think that's going to fall down to Stephanie and I, and we'll kind of come up with that. So if Stephanie, if you can commit to the next week, let's get that nailed down. And,
absolutely, that's why I started on it, because I wanted us to have a soft opening with that.
Yep. So we'll kind of get that, and we'll cover that at the next a week from today, and then we'll launch that program.
Awesome.
Deal.
Awesome. Okay, so once again, I walk up the stairs to take this call, and I'm a little tired. It's the end of the day, and by the end of this call, I'm jazzed. I'm the energy is up, and I'm in awe of this team. I'm really appreciative. So, thank you once again.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else?
Not for me.
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
I'm good for now.
Okay. Oh, we
For
forgot
now.
Dan, we forgot to ask. Did you get outside today?
Oh, yes, I did get out and fly 4 batteries. It was about 19 below zero, minus 40 with the wind chill.
How
Good
did?
Lord.
Oh my gosh, you're a better man than I am. How did the batteries last in that type of cold? They must have a shorter life.
So I fly from inside my car. I keep everything warm.
Smart.
Open the door, throw it out, take off, and then land as close to the door as possible. Reach out, grab it, bring it in.
That's funny.
Yeah, the batteries lasted 2.5 to 3 minutes. When usually I don't know, they would last 3.5 to 4 maybe.
Okay.
But it's really hard to tell because while you're flying, the voltage is way low, and then when you land, they bump back up to pretty much where they normally would be.
Up.
Yeah, so it's a little tough, but it was fun.
Throw them in front of the heater before you send them out.
Yeah, sometimes you put it up in the defrost by the windshield to keep them extra warm.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
See, right now is the perfect time for flying in Arizona. It's 60 degrees out and beautiful weather. It's the summer where it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and of course I had to go for a bike ride today too, just to test it. I did that earlier when it was even colder.
Oh my gosh! Oh my word!
Good job, Dan. Make the rest of us look.
So I heard one newscaster saying, "Well, you have to cover your eyes because your corneas can freeze at this temperature." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, you know it's cold when you blink and your eyelashes sort of freeze together. That's cold.
Oh, jeez, that's bad.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I went to college in Schenectady, New York, and that's about 200 miles north of New York City. Coldest I've ever been. It was negative 45 Fahrenheit without a wind chill, negative 75 with. I bundled up. I had coats and sweaters and all sorts of garments on. Walked outside. It felt like I had no clothes on. I had never been so cold. So you were out there riding a bike. You're a man.
Yeah, it was only 2 miles and about 17 minutes, so it was just short. But
that's a long time.
Oof.
Gosh,
coldest weather I've ever been in was actually in New York City, and my significant other sitting across the desk from me right now always makes fun of me because I was the whole trip. I was like, I'm not cold, I'm fine. Meanwhile, I'm like shaking beyond belief. And I think it was in like February a couple years back, and it was. I mean, it was like 11 degrees, and
Oh,
we were at
man.
like Freedom Tower. They had shut off the fountain, and I mean everything to prevent it from freezing, and it was rough.
Yeah. Yeah. 11 is balmy for Dan. Oh,
Yeah, you
y'all are
just get
crazy.
used to it.
yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well, anything else?
Nope.
Thank you all. Great discussion. We'll be in touch. Take care.
Night, you guys.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.